All right. So my name is Rob Rose. I'm the founder of SaniTrace, and founded in 2015, the first company to deliver recalls via text to shoppers with a focus on a federal regulation in food safety called the ground beef logging. So ground beef has to be logged, and the guys who log it are usually guys that have maybe a high school degree. And the federal government, in their genius way, said, hey, you have to write it in paper. After they've been cutting meat in a cold meat room, they have to write down an alphanumeric that could be any number of digits. And then it goes to the home office. And the home office then types it into an Excel spreadsheet. So I created a system that runs on a tablet that allows the meat cutter to instantly scan all the contents of ground beef, okay? And the business started to take off. And we created a system for the very first time that delivers text messages to you based upon the ground beef purchase. So you think about a working family, working 2 jobs, and you have ground beef. It's probably the most expensive protein in your refrigerator. If it goes bad, how would you know? You wouldn't know. My system allows for federal, national recalls. It allows for local and regional recalls, and it sends a text message to you only if you've purchased a package of ground beef that needs to be recalled. So the problem is there's greater numbers of food illnesses. Today there's a number that are going on. There's listeria, it's killed about 3 people, made a lot of people sick. Another one is the one that is it's a nut powder that was accidentally put into a non-dairy item. So if you're having a nut allergy, you wouldn't even know that it's in there. How do you know if it's not in your fridge right now? How do you know if it's not in your freezer right now? How would you know? You wouldn't know. So this is the issue. It's costing more money for consumers. It's costing more money for the grocery stores and the manufacturers of food. So what's the business opportunity? I admit, the growth opportunity is not as high as 10%. Joe and I talked a little bit about this. But the opportunity as far as food safety going up to 2030 is huge. You're talking about a multi-billion-dollar opportunity. And I don't think that we actually know, truthfully, what the true value of the entire opportunity is, because we haven't had the regulations put in place until now. And there's a big one coming. So I talked to you about how my company supported ground beef. President Obama on January the 4th, 2011 signed into law the greatest change in food safety since the 1930s. It's called the Food Safety Modernization Act. And it goes into effect on January the 1st, 2026. What does that mean? It means that there has to be traceability throughout the entire chain of food manufacturing. Literally from the ranch, from the farm, to the grocery store. But the law does not continue on from the grocery store to the consumer, right? I created a system that allows me to track that data, and it's no longer siloed. Okay, I want you to think about this. You, sir, are the rancher. You, sir, are the distributor. You, ma'am, you're the grocery store. You each have your own SQL database. If there's a problem where you get sick, it takes months to go through each SQL database. You have to have somebody in your department create a crystal report of the food items. You have to do the same thing. You have to do the same thing, because that's your business. Your business is, I keep track of the data, and if I need to get it out to the government, I'll worry about that when it comes. You as a trucker, you may not have IT on staff every single day. You may have somebody comes in, maybe you've hired these guys to do the work, right, to set up the system. That person comes in and they write the crystal report, it goes to the government. In the meantime, shoppers are consuming the food, and the government law, FSMA, has left all of us as consumers dangling in the wind. We're hanging out there. How would you know? You would not know. You're going to listen to, who here, I'm old, who listens to KMOX radio? Who's watching the news, the local news? It's not, you're right. But if it wasn't your job, you would be like, what are my friends on Twitter doing? What are my friends on TikTok doing, right? So what's really interesting is that TikTok actually has covered this latest listeria. So food safety is coming into social media. So how did we do? Well, I was really happy. I was cruising along. I was in meat rooms throughout the Midwest. We had captured 450, huge amount of food, huge amount of ground beef, okay? We were installed, we were rolling. And then I had a partnership with Aero Electronics. And SaniTrace is a registered OEM with Microsoft because of Aero. So today we'll talk about my tokens, but the really cool thing is Aero has a finance division. They're going to finance the project, the installation into the grocery store, into the food manufacturer, the hardware, the service, okay? The whole thing gets wrapped up. SaniTrace, get our cash up front for the term of the contract. And Aero Finance collects along the way. Guess what they are going to do? They're going to finance the new SaniTrace tokens. Think about that for a second. They'll finance the tokens, that sets the price. It sets the price for my tokens. This is unprecedented and it's huge. And they have stuck with me, and Microsoft has stuck with me through this. I have been through the hell. I've been to the gates of hell. I suffered a heart attack in 2018 and had a quintuple bypass. I was then diagnosed with stage 3A cancer. I went through all of that and some personal issues related to that. I'm rebuilding my life in 2022. I'm working with Alliance Foods, Aero, things are cooking along. And then 2022, I was dead twice in the ER at Mercy Hospital. I spent all of 2023 rebuilding my life. That's what today is about. And I have a couple of people that I want to hire to come work for me. And one of them I've told I wouldn't do this if I didn't think that I had the ability to do it. My heart function was so low that my cardiologist is like, Rob, you're going to have to go on disability. I spent last year rebuilding my heart function, and today I can run about a 5K. My heart function is back to normal. It's a miracle. You can Google this. I'm not making this a bunch of baloney, but I am blessed to be alive. So that's what this is about. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? The opportunity is at hand. I wake up, and I'm not just blessed to be alive. I wake up to know that SaniTrace is my calling, and I'm ready to rock and roll. So, what's the business opportunity? I know, we can all laugh. Yeah, Rob, multi-billion dollars. The truth of the matter is, we have my relationship with Aero and Microsoft is going to allow me to hockey stick much more quickly because of the tokens that I've created, okay? So it's not just about the valuation of the company, it's the value of the tokens on top of that. So revenue will come in, but that's not, it will be in the billions because FSMA is going to take off. Schnucks, Deerberger, Walgreens, everybody who sells food is now going to be under the gun. And consumers are going to demand it. So what have I learned? Well, I've learned that I need to have a value proposition for both businesses and consumers. Joe and I talked about this. It's like, Rob, you're in the middle where the twain meets. You have the business side. So you have compliance issues for the grocery stores, the manufacturers, and the distributors. Okay? I get it. There's a law that drives that. The consumer side, as Joe said, Rob, consumer demand and opportunity is so fickle. And I said, yeah, I remember the pet rock. I'm old enough to remember that people actually bought a rock in a box. And they thought that was cool, right? So consumer demand is interesting. And what I've learned is even though you may be really, really concerned about food safety, you're not going to do much. We have to incentivize the consumer. This is where the tokens come in, okay? Unlike Bitcoin, that's speculative and not tied to a business process, SaniTrace tokens are tied to a business process. There's a finite number of tokens. Those tokens will be used in putting the data from each of the businesses onto the public blockchain. The consumer, okay, can interact with that data, and in return, they will get SaniTrace tokens. Those tokens can be held by the consumer. They can increase in value, like stock. They can be converted into a manager special or a coupon. So the consumer now has an incentive to participate in food safety for the very first time. And when the tokens are minted, so I'm going to give you all 1,000 tokens each. I'll collect your information, just I just need your cell number. I don't need anything else. And we will send to you, when we mint them, we'll airdrop to you 1,000 tokens for each of you, okay? And the really cool thing is, the value will be set with the first grocery stores that we install into. I've survived, I'm thriving, I've got some potential investors on the hook, and I'm ready to go. So that's the SaniTrace 3.0 story. And we'll get you tokens, we'll give you 1,000 tokens at the end. So I appreciate it. That's SaniTrace.